Okay, so here we got the synthetic stock, that Savage B-Mag 17 WSM I have. Good little squirrel plinker, prairie dogs, all kinds of stuff. But the problem, like most of these stocks, they flex real bad. Not so much a problem on this. Only 17, doesn't really have kick. And unlike most people, I really went in and hogged out through here anyway. Doesn't take much. Little 1-inch wooden dowel with some 60 grit sandpaper, and this stuff is just like butter. And really hogged all this out anyway. So the barrel is very free floated. Even if I get on it, I can look down it and twist it, and I still don't contact. But might as well do a little trick to stiffen it up a little bit. The resin, or actually it's epoxy stuff I'm going to use, is a glaze coat epoxy you can pick up at Home Depot. I use it on other projects like countertops and tables. And some people, I noticed, they said they used carbon fiber arrow shafts. Well, don't really have any of those, or I'm going to try to find any, and this thing's so small down here, I don't think it would fit anyway. But while I was at Home Depot, picked up one of these 1/8 inch little steel rods. Gonna drop this down in there. As you can see, I already worked on one. And then do one on the other side here for a little bit of structural rigidity. Epoxy that into place. Should add plenty of extra strength. I know some people add like BBs or something down in the pockets here to add weight. That's mostly your larger calibers, 300 Win Mags, 270s, things like that, where people are also trying to knock down a little bit of the recoil with these synthetic stocks. This obviously doesn't have much recoil, it's just a little rimfire 17. Haven't decided whether I'm going to add some BBs to it yet or not. I might. I don't really think it'd be necessary. I think the amount of weight we're going to add with this epoxy is going to be more than enough. So I got this cut, and I got this one notched out earlier off camera. And just use the angle grinder here just to make life faster. You really don't need to. If you have a good X-Acto knife, even a regular pocket knife, this stuff just cuts like butter. You could do this by hand without any power tools. I even cut this with a hacksaw just because I didn't feel like breaking out the big stuff. Got it notched out down in there. And keeping in mind that I've already come through and taken a lot of material out of these ribs. As you can see, they're sanded on the top, right there. So when I fill this up, I'll probably overflow these ribs just a little bit. Most people are like, don't go over the rib, don't go over the rib. But I've already sanded these down. And also, this epoxy that I have, I know from experience, it sands just as easy as this stuff here. So you could build this whole thing up a little bit and then come back through with that 1-inch sandpaper. Or something else I found, the broom handle. The size of a broom handle actually fits just a little bit better, actually. You come through here and put in just a little bit of work, and it'll sand all that epoxy out, and you'll still be able to free float your barrel just fine. So, and then as you can see, this, I'm going to sit down in there. I wanted it to go all the way to the end to make sure where the bipod is secured. And we're going to stop at this rib, although we could go into this channel a little bit, but since the lug right here is well below level of this, I don't feel like dealing with that. I'd have to dam this up somehow. But this is an empty space. The bolt sits there, and the recoil lug actually just doesn't exist. Just little 17, they basically just use a bolt through this to be the recoil lug. You can see over here, that's that bolt hole, and all this is on the front side. So this isn't doing anything for recoil. All your recoil management's right there. But again, you know, we got, I don't even know the force, but it ain't much. 10-year-old kid can hold this with one hand and shoot it. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna work on this other side here, getting this set down. The only thing I'm really focusing on is making sure this rod is below the level of all these ribs as is. That way it doesn't have a chance to stick up through. Because this synthetic and this epoxy will sand very easily. Having to take some out of that steel rod will not be an easy fix. And I'll be here for a really long time. But I'll set you up here, do a little work on this thing, see if we can't get it prepped, and then we'll go through and start prepping the inner sections. I'm not going to drill holes like everybody does because these channels here are actually deeper than the rod, so it'll flow through. There won't be a need for a hole because I already got the little slots cut in all of these. Let's see if we can get you set up here. It's just a very bit high right back there. Honestly, with the way this thing is, probably just bend this just a smidge. It doesn't have, it's not super strong. I mean, a carbon fiber arrow shaft would be more structurally rigid. But once it's in the epoxy and everything's set, it'll be kind of like rebar and concrete. Just be another added benefit. Right through here, obviously this is your bolt hole for your bipod. Definitely got to be careful not to take all that out, otherwise you'll be in trouble and won't be able to have your sling mount up there. And that wouldn't be good.
So, we're going to work on this and cut this out a little bit more. Very carefully. This thing just kind of eats through it, although really it's more like it's just melting it. You look down in here. So all this got to be cleaned up after you're done, after you get fitting it right. But very, very easy to hit too much real quick. And you put a hole through the side of your stuff. This won't go very well. I'm going to do a little test fit. Probably not going to fit up here. Right through here it's pretty skinny. Really got to be careful how you do it. That looks good. Looks like this rib right here is the problem. That's what I want to. As you can see, this knife hasn't been sharpened in a minute. It still just kind of slices right through it. See how deep this one back here sits? Gotta give a lot of room for that epoxy to flow in between all these channels. Almost too much. Nah, that's actually down in there. That's a little better than my other drum. Switch the knife, it's actually a little more sharp. I don't keep leaving it stuck down in this hole in that slot. But you gotta get it. Oh, yeah, there we go. That one's set down nice. That was actually below everything too, just barely. Might be the same trick. And a little bit right there. So it really wants to sit down in there at the end. Yeah, just work it. Ain't gonna happen all at once. Do a little bit, test, do a little bit, test. It's a lot easier to put a little bit out versus impossible to add more back. There we go. Now, get that one out. Get that one out.
Fun part, roughing all this up and cleaning it up a little bit too. That's the thing. Getting it just a little clean. Now, once all that's squared away and you're good and satisfied, see, I hit this a little bit. I took a little bit out. Luckily, from the outside, you'll never see it. And I will come through and hit this with some sandpaper again anyway after I'm done, just to recurve it, reshape it a little bit, make sure everything's good to go. And then just kind of make holes, make scratches, give it something to bite to down in there.
Get a grip on something. Unfortunately, it's super small, so you'll never get like sandpaper down in there. Maybe if you had a Dremel with a super small wire wheel, you might have better luck. But this still does the trick pretty good. Now this rifle won't be a hunting, like carry through the woods in a stand type rifle. I'll pretty much live on my porch when I'm using it. I use it to stop squirrels in the yard. So not too worried about it getting shook around and bumped around and this stuff coming loose. If you are doing this
Like a hunting type rifle, which a lot of people do, like their Rugers and things that come with their synthetic stocks nowadays. That might be more of an issue for you if you are going to trek this through the woods and use it as like a hunting rifle. You might want to take a long time on this step and make sure you get some good scoring and markings to make sure you get some good adhesion in case it does decide to ever want to come loose. And bigger calipers with the recoil might have a little bit of effect on it too. But for the most part, should be just steady step. Anything you can do to get a little slice and dent and scratch down in there. I'll fix that end up a little bit. Yeah. I'm gonna go hit this with some carb cleaner. Get any other little random specks I have left out. Okay, so we've got this leveled up in the vise. And we're getting this mixed up here. All that was an old pickle jar. But it works. Clean it out real good with carb cleaner or acetone or alcohol or whatever. And Make sure you clean it out after you're done, and you could even use it as your storage drawer that you were for all your nuts and bolts earlier. And then just an old bent, broken screwdriver for a mixer. Really got to mix this stuff good though. That's the only catch. It'll turn clear, and then it'll turn this milky color. And then once it starts to turning clear again, and start getting all the little bubbles, keep going. They recommend, I forgot the recommended time, but you'll know at a certain point, you'll be like, oh, that's mixed about as good as you're going to get it. Just want to make sure you got it nice and thorough, that way it all cures. Because it not curing after you've poured it in here would be a very big problem. And I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. Making sure to avoid that hole where the little stud comes through. It's already there, but epoxying it into place probably wouldn't be the best idea either. And like I said, I know I sanded these ribs down, so I'm going to go just a little bit over them. And also it'll come back and get sanded out even after that. Yo! I just did what I was talking about not doing, and epoxy that whole hole right there because I slipped. Help yourself, have some more steady hands. Good thing that stud's in there because it'll probably never come out now. And from experience, I know that this stuff likes heat to get the bubbles out of it. So I'm gonna go grab the torch real quick. I do also have a heat gun, but I found that this works a lot better. Just a quick torch. Poof. Bubbles all gone. That torch really works on them bubbles. And if you do it fast enough, it doesn't melt the stock or anything because it's just a quick hit. But there again, it will be sanded, so it's fine. That's pretty much it. Give me a second to get these gloves off. And I'll show you the stuff that I'm using here. I think you can pick it up at any box store, hardware store, Ace, things like that. And give you kind of overview a little bit here. And that's how much I have left out of that jar. Right there, just that little bit. From there to there is how much I used. I have this product called, it's called Glaze Coat. I had to take the stickers off. There it is. Femowood Glaze Coat. It's just a 2-part epoxy, 1-to-1 ratio. About 5 hours since I poured this, and with the heat that I put in it, she's already cured pretty solid. As you can see, it's quite sandable. And it's just got a little chisel, some sandpaper wrapped around it. Found that that fits pretty good down there in the groove. And as you can see, even when it's not fully cured, or even when it is fully cured, this stuff just sands. So if you're using this glaze coat and you do go over a little bit, or you want to go over a little bit, you can put just a little bit of work into it and get the shape back and get a nice floated barrel. A little hard to do just one-handed. But as you can see, this flakes right off. This is 60 grit, so definitely want to hit it with something pretty strong. But, and then just a little wipe down. And unless you really care, you don't have to do much with this. Never going to be seen anyway. You gotta take the barrel off and take the action out. I'm just going to leave it like this. The edges look good. Can't really tell anything's happened here. Everything's nice and dry. And she is very stiff. I don't know if you can see it. The only flex in this thing is coming from the bipod attachment and the open mag well receiver right here, which can't really do anything about that, and it'll get strengthened back up when I actually bolt this thing back together. But she definitely cured up and definitely strengthened up quite a lot. I don't know how much of it's the rods, how much of it's the epoxy, or just everything working together, but it used to be if you did this, it would just twist all over the place. You about turn this thing into a pretzel. So yeah, we'll get this thing bolted back together and we'll give a look at the final product here. Well, we got her back together here. Really quite simple on these, just 2 bolts and a little plastic piece at the bottom there. And as you can see, I got this piece of sandpaper in there. She is definitely floated all the way up to the action there. And you can actually wiggle this. It was a very accurate gun before. I had no problems out to 100 yards hitting squirrels. But this should make it a little easier, because before I had to be real gentle with it. Otherwise she'd start flexing right here, and you could see, when you're looking down it, you could see the barrel and the stock start touching. But just a quick little project. Hope you enjoyed the video and you learned something. Y'all have a good one.